Did anyone miss some of the order that they need? Obviously, we'll kind of go through it as we go anyway. All right, so we're going to start with House Bill 2241. And Nathan, will you please explain the bill for us?
Madam Chairman, members, House Bill 2241 requires the State Board of Education to include in its minimum academic standards a requirement that students be taught the Holocaust and other genocides at least twice between the 7th and 12th grades. With that, I am available for any questions.
Thank you. Members, any questions for Nathan? Okay.
Wait, I'm sorry. Could you just, maybe I missed it. What year does that begin?
Nathan?
7th to 12th grade.
I mean,
Ms.
what
Weaver?
calendar year?
Yeah. Oh, what calendar year?
Calendar year.
I believe that was double check.
Chase?
Madam Chairman, Representative, the bill doesn't list the exact calendar year. It just requires the State Board of Education to account for requirement, so they would have to undergo rulemaking procedures to include that.
And Representative Schwiebert, I believe they've already started that process. We had talked to them about it previously. I don't know how, I think they already have done it. We'll let the sponsor talk about it. They've already done it, and so, but we just want it clear in statute that this is a state requirement. But I'll let
Madam Chair,
Representative Salmon.
just flagging that for whatever reason, when the gentleman stood at the podium to present, it was
can't
really
hear.
hard to hear.
Okay, so whoever's speaking, let's just make sure you eat the mic. Get really close to it, okay? If you still can't hear, can you make a not hearing gesture, and I'll see if we can fix it right then. Thanks. Okay, we have the bill sponsor, Representative Hernandez.
Members of the committee, can you hear me? Is it better?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So first and foremost, thank you for allowing me to bring this bill once again. Just to clarify, this process already started at the Department of Education. They actually took it upon themselves about 2 to 3 months ago to start the process and the rule changing there, because the bill essentially did not make it because of COVID last year. It passed out unanimously. It had wide support. However, the Department of Ed has already started this, so we're just doing this to codify the language and ensure that it is being taught in schools, grades 7th through 12th, and it should be taught twice. So we're not changing the language. What the department did was use the language that I used for my bill last year, and they ended up doing it on their own. I do have 2 letters. We had so for those of you who weren't here last year, we had survivors come in and speak to the committee, and they were also here on a really big special day. It was actually on the commemoration of the liberation of Auschwitz, which is tomorrow. And they were here for that moment, and we voted it out of the House, and it went over to the Senate. So it was a very special, emotional day for a lot of us. However, because of COVID and some technical difficulties, unfortunately, I can't have the survivors join us today. We do have 2 that submitted letters, and I'm happy to email those to you all. I don't want to keep you here too long. However, I don't know if you wanted me just to send them in an email or what you wanted me to do, but I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. And I'll just emphasize, it was an incredible day having them here, and it was such an honor to get to speak to them. And I really recommend reading the letters that they sent. We've lost so many of them this year, and so it's just incredible to have the opportunity to meet them and hear from them.
And I just wanted to mention one thing, because I know some of them are watching right now. In honor of tomorrow, which is obviously the commemoration of the liberation of Auschwitz, it's really important that now more than ever we do ensure that we're teaching about the Holocaust to the future generation. Last year, I was very troubled to see that 2/3 of millennials don't even know that the Holocaust happened, and don't even have an idea of what it is. So that should be alarming to many of us, hopefully to all of us, because it's something that we do need to teach the future generation. So I hope that I can continue to count on the support of my colleagues here. In honor of the survivors we have in Arizona, we have under 100 that are still living here. In honor of them, in honor of their families, and the entire Jewish world and community, I hope that I can count on your support, because this is very important to us. So thank you.
Thank you. Members, any questions for the sponsor? Okay, did we
I-
have, oh, go ahead.
I would just like,
Representative Schubert, go ahead.
thank you, Madam Chair, Representative Hernandez. I just want to thank you so much for taking up this cause and for shepherding this bill to codify this in Arizona statute. It's the very least that we can do, and I'm going to be honored to vote yes today on
Thank
this.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Members, any other questions for the sponsor? Okay, did we have anyone that was actually coming to speak or doing it virtually?
I have on the list from Chase, Esther Bosch and Dr. White. No,
I do have their written testimony
Okay.
because of technical difficulty. One of them is 97, and he was trying to figure out how to use Zoom. I know he's watching, but we weren't able to quite get him on Zoom. But I do have his written testimony, exactly what he shared last year and what he wanted to share this year, and I'm happy to send that over in an email
Great,
Please
or
do.
read it, either one.
thank you, please do. We'd love to have those testimonies, and we
Yes.
can put that, I think we can put that in the public record as well, right, Chase? Okay. let's
Perfect, I will
those.
do that.
Good, thank you. Members, any other questions for the sponsor? Any other discussion on the bill? Okay, seeing none, will you please move the bill?
Madam Chairman, I move that HB 2241 be returned with a due pass recommendation.
Members, the motion before you is that HB 2241 be returned with a due pass recommendation. The secretary will please call the roll.
Representative Hernandez.
Pass.
Representative John.
Aye.
Representative Nguyen.
Aye.
Representative Pollock.
Madam Chair, may I explain my vote?
Please.
I want to thank the sponsor, Ms. Hernandez, for bringing the bill. This is really important. It's important that we continue to teach the youth about history. So thank you so much. I appreciate it. And with that, I vote yes.
Representative Pratt.
You're on mute. You need to unmute.
You're still muted.
On the House floor, sometimes they let us just do a thumbs up, thumbs down. Are we allowed to do that here? Or does it need to be a voice vote? Do we know? Oh, okay, there you are. Go ahead.
You can speak now.
Oh, okay. Aye.
Thank you.
Representative Roberts.
Aye.
Representative Salmon.
Aye.
Representative Schweber.
It's a resounding aye.
Representative Hernandez.
May I explain my vote?
Please.
I just want to say a big thank you to Alma for working on this. It started out as a coffee with Michael Beller, who raised us the fact that this wasn't happening in Arizona public schools. So I want to recognize Mr. Beller and his contributions. I also want to recognize all of the different stakeholders who were working tirelessly for the last 2 years to make this happen. So with that, I vote aye.
Vice Chairman Pingarelli.
Aye.
Chairman Udall.
I'd also like to explain my vote. I want to thank Alma Hernandez for working together on this and just the incredible people that we brought together. It's been incredible meeting them and learning their stories and how important that's been for our children, the children of our communities, to learn about this. You said for the entire Jewish population, I would say for all of humanity, that this is just an essential thing for us to learn about. And with that, I vote aye. Members, by your vote of 10 ayes, 0 nays, 0 present, 0 absent, you have given House Bill 2241 a due pass recommendation. The next bill on the calendar is House
you.
Bill 2183, and Chase will explain the bill.
Madam Chairman, members, House Bill 2183 establishes the John McCain Public Service Scholarship Fund and appropriates $5 million from the general fund in fiscal year 2022 to the fund. The Arizona Board of Regents is required to provide scholarships to students who complete a term of service in a national service program and use a federal post-service education award to attend an Arizona educational institution or program. Finally, the bill outlines requirements a candidate must meet in order to receive a scholarship from the fund. And with that, I'm available for any questions.
Thank you, members. Any questions for Chase? Seeing none, we have the bill sponsor, Representative Blackman.
Madam Chair, members, thank you for hearing this bill.
Representative Blackman, if you'll leave the mask on, even to speak in committee, we do require
I
it
am
at
so
all
sorry.
times in
I
here.
am so sorry.
We can hear you just fine. You have a
Can you hear me?
nice loud
I'm
voice.
sorry, members. Are they seeing the back of my head or the front of my head?
I think they can see the front of you. See how you're on the screen, the front of you?
Oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah. There you go. Good.
Well, it's good to see everybody. And again, Madam Chair, thank you for hearing this bill. Representative Lieberman and I ran this bill last year. We're running it again this year. It came out of the House. I don't have the numbers that came out of the House, so I don't want to give you an incorrect number. However, it's a good bill. It's still a good bill. What it does, it gives students an additional opportunity to be able to finish school, finish college, without carrying the burden of a continued student loans. So this scholarship will also allow students that enroll in this or take this scholarship to give back to the community, give back to the state, and we'll see a lot of kids hopefully stay here after they graduate from one of our universities. And it's just another great opportunity for these kids to finish college without leaving school with a big financial debt. I hope that you would support this bill as you did last year, and Representative Lieberman and I would thank all of you very much if we could do this. Any questions of me?
Thank you. Members, any questions for the sponsor? See any? Okay, do we have any other speakers? Is it just you?
That's me.
I see none.
None, Vice Chair? None, okay. Any further discussion on the bill? Seeing none, please move the bill.
Madam Chairman, I move that HB 2183 be returned with a due pass recommendation.
Members, the motion before you is that House Bill 2183 be returned with a due pass recommendation. Secretary will please call the roll.
Representative Hernandez.
Aye.
Representative John.
Aye.
Representative Wynn.
Aye.
Representative Pollock.
Aye.
Representative Pratt.
Aye.
Representative Salmon.
Madam Chair, did we skip a representative?
I think, oh, sorry, evidently.
Representative Roberts.
Thank you.
Where are we at now? Are you
You.
calling on me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. I'm gonna be a no.
Sorry, my glasses keep fogging. Representative Salmon.
Aye.
Representative Schweber.
Aye.
Vice Chairman Pingarelli.
Aye.
And Chairman Udall.
Aye. Members, by your vote of 9 aye, 1 nay, 0 present, and 0 absent, you have given House Bill 2183 a due pass recommendation. The next bill on the calendar is House Bill 2301.
Madam Chairman, members, House Bill 2301 prohibits the Arizona Department of Education from assigning a career technical education district a letter grade. And with that, I'm available for any questions.
Thank you. Members, any questions for Chase?
I just had, Madam Chairman?
Madam Vice Chair?
Yes, has the CTEDs ever had a letter grade assigned to them?
Chase?
Madam Chairman, Representative Pingarelli, statute requires the CTEDs to be assigned a letter grade, but it's my understanding that the State Board and the Department of Education have never actually assigned the CTEDs a letter grade, but I'm happy to look into that and I'll get back to you.
Thank you. Chase, make sure you get really close to the microphone, please. All right. Thank you. Any other questions for staff? We have the bill sponsor, Representative Blackman again.
Madam Chair, and again, members, thank you for hearing this bill, HB 2301. Just a few things about this bill. This bill made it out of the House 60-0 last year with great support. What this does is streamlines the process, and it does away with the redundancy, the A through F grade. And typically, it's important because a lot of students that are in the CTED program, 96% of those students go on to college. And it's a great bill, and sponsored it again last year. And I believe in the CTEDs, particularly in my neck of the woods, rural Arizona. Our kids typically enroll in that at a higher rate than some other students because of the programs that they have. And I've seen the results of CTEDs and our rural kids in these programs and what they've been doing with their lives. So I hope for your support. Any questions?
Thank you. Members, any questions? Sponsor. Seeing none, do we have anyone signed up to speak on this one? Nice.
#2301 has
Yes.
Lourdes Pina and John Kelly.
Great. I think they're both probably going to be online. I see Lourdes coming up. We'll give her a minute to.
She's on.
Oh, it's just going to be Lourdes. Okay. Lourdes, thanks for joining us. Go ahead.
Madam Chair, members, for the record, Lourdes Peña with Tri Advocates on behalf of the Arizona CTED Consortium. And I heard testimony from staff and the sponsor of the bill, great information. I think the only thing I have to add here is like Representative Blackman said, this is a bill that was introduced last year. We are really just trying to get away from redundancy in the process. Our CTED students that participate in our programs come from member districts and charters, and those charters are already receiving those letter grades. And thanks to all the work that the State Board of Ed has done in creating and enhancing the accountability system, 20% of that is specific to CTE and college and career readiness issues. So we are very, very glad with that. And really just, I think the best thing that we hear and the best comments we hear from our members, from our students is, our programs are 100% voluntarily. Parents and students choose to come to our programs. So what better measure of success than their continuing enrollment in our programs, and really just continue to see the grow and expansion of CT programs and eliminating those redundancy of procedures in our accountability system. So with that, I'm happy to answer questions. Back to Representative Pingarelli, she's correct. We've never received a letter grade before. This was a requirement that really came into place in 2016, and since, again, the State Board of Ed has included college and career readiness indicators as 20% of the overall accountability as letter grade for any school.
Thank you. Members, any questions for Lourdes? Don't see any. Okay. Thank you. Lourdes, do you know if John was coming or it's just you?
It was only, Madam Chair, members, he's only necessary, so it's just me.
Okay, great. Unless anyone has questions for him, we'll go ahead and go on. All right. Members, any further discussion or questions? Seeing none, will you please move the bill?
Madam Chairman, I move that HB 2301 be returned with a due pass recommendation.
Members, the motion before you is that House Bill 2301 be returned with a due pass recommendation. The Secretary will please call the roll.
Representative Hernandez.
Aye.
Representative John.
Aye.
Representative Lynn.
Aye.
Representative Pollock.
Aye.
Representative Pratt.
Aye.
Representative Roberts.
Aye.
Representative Salmon.
Aye.
Representative Schweber.
Aye.
Vice Chairman Pingarelli.
Aye.
And Chairman Udall.
Aye. Members, by your vote of 10 ayes, 0 nays, 0 present, and 0 absent, you have given House Bill 2301 a due pass recommendation.
Thank you, members.
Thank you. The next bill on the calendar is House Bill 2259, and Chase will explain the bill.
Madam Chairman, members, House Bill 2259 is an emergency measure that allows a common school district that is not within the boundaries of a high school district and that was authorized to form a unified school district to continue calculating its budget and equalization assistance until a high school is approved by the School Facilities Board and constructed. The bill contains a retroactivity clause of July 1st, 2020, and prohibits a school district from retroactively adjusting its budget for any fiscal year other than fiscal year 2021. And Madam Chairman, there is an amendment I can explain.
Please.
Madam Chairman, members, the 5-line Udall amendment dated January 22nd at 2:31 p.m. allows a common school who meets the specified requirements to continue calculating its budget and equalization assistance for 15 years rather than 10 after the unification election or until a high school is built, whichever occurs first. And with that, I'm available for any questions.
Thank you. Members, any questions for staff? Okay, we have the sponsor here today, Representative Osborne.
Thank you, members. Thank you, Madam Chair. For many of you that were here last session, this is actually, can you hear me? Oh, there we go, better. So this bill actually was one of the COVID issues from last year, and it came out of the House with 59 votes, was in third read during the Senate. And the funny thing, right now, Dr. Angelo, the superintendent of Natterburg School District, is actually trying to Zoom both us and the Senate because this bill is being mirrored right now in both committees. And so I'm not sure she's going to make it on or not. And don't let the issue that is the statement in here that this is a common school district, because quite frankly, it's not. This is the only unified school district that doesn't have a high school. And so it has been in the process, and things are going forward with a great amount of growth and community that passed a bond for a new high school to come forward. You know, I don't know if she is able to get on. Do you guys see if she's here?
Yeah, I guess.
Is she? Awesome. Okay. I will let her
Members,
talk on
any
it.
questions for the sponsors before we listen to superintendent? Seeing none. Okay.
No.
Do you want to announce our speaker?
Yes, it's Ms. Angelo.
Superintendent Angelo. Let's see if we can get her. Oh, there she is. Yep. All right, go ahead. Superintendent, go ahead.
Good afternoon, Chairman. Yes. Good afternoon. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Go ahead. We're ready for you.
Thank you. Chairwoman Udall, Vice Chair Pingarelli, and members of the Education Committee. My name is Dr. Auspicia Angelo, and I am the Superintendent of Natterburg Unified School District. I think I have.
We're not hearing you. Are you?
I have a little bit of feedback from the legislative video. Let me close that.
Maybe turn off the live one. Yeah.
Yes. Okay. I think that's better.
There you go.
Chairwoman Udall, Vice Chair Pingarelli, and members of the Education Committee. My name is Dr. Auspicia Angelo, and I am Superintendent of Natterburg Unified School District in Whitman, Arizona, located between Surprise and Wickenburg. I began serving in this position as superintendent on July 1st of 2019. As Representative Osborne stated, this is one of the bills that was in progress when COVID hit and stalled us out last spring. I am here today to ask for your support to pass House Bill 2259 with the emergency clause and amendment. This extension is necessary to continue under the current status of allowing Natterburg to tuition our high school students to our neighboring districts of Dysart and Wickenburg until we meet the criteria set forth by the School Facilities Board to build our comprehensive high school. The current extension expired last year on June 30th, 2020, and our proposed bill was stalled at that time. In November of 2006, our district voters approved a ballot measure to transition from a K-8 district to become a unified district, and this became effective July 1st of 2007. Unfortunately, the Great Recession hit at the same time, and it significantly impacted the housing developments that were in progress and planned for our school district boundaries. And they remained on hold until recently and have now begun to go forward, and the area is booming. So with those developments coming back, we began our high school this year with a 9th grade cohort of 50 students, and the SFB projects that at 121 students, we will begin the construction of our new comprehensive high school. The demographic studies that we have gotten from 2 different organizations in our area indicate that they are expecting 5 million more residents. We are continuing conversations with surrounding cities and development services to be prepared for the housing developments that are ramping up at this time. And it is anticipated that we will experience, extensive growth and meet the SFB enrollment criteria within the next couple of years, if not next year. We are excited after several failed attempts that our community approved a small bond last November, and we began the process of phasing in the high school program. We have been working closely with our parents, students, families, and our community members to create an innovative high school program. This is why we're seeking an extension for the current practice of Natterburg School District to continue to tuition our upperclassmen to our neighboring districts. I would like to extend my appreciation to this committee for your time and consideration in voting yes for House Bill 2259, to Representative Osborne and Kelsey Yance for their hard work on this bill. The passage of this bill is critical for the viability of our district. I will be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Okay, thank you. Members, any questions for the superintendent? I don't see any. Thank you. Do we have anyone else signed up to speak on this one?
No, we do not.
Okay, great. Then Madam Vice Chair, please move, let's see, we need to move the bill first.
Madam Chairman, I move that HB 2259 be returned with a due pass recommendation.
And please move the Udall amendment.
Madam Chairman, I move that the 5-line Udall amendment dated January 22nd at 2:31 p.m. be adopted.
Members, the motion before you is the adoption of the Udall amendment. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed say nay. It appears the ayes have it, do have it, so ordered. Madam Vice Chair, please move the bill as amended.
Madam Chairman, I move that HB 2259 as amended be returned with a due pass recommendation.
Members, the motion before you is that House Bill 2259 as amended be returned with a due pass recommendation. The Secretary will please call the roll.
Representative Hernandez,
Aye.
Representative John,
Aye.
Representative Lynn,
Aye.
Representative Pollock,
Aye.
Representative Pratt,
Aye.
Representative Roberts,
Aye.
Representative Salmon,
Aye.
Representative Schweber,
Aye.
Vice Chairman Pingarelli,
Aye.
and Chairman Udall.
Aye. Members, by your vote of 10 ayes, 0 nays, 0 present, and 0 absent, you have given House Bill 2259 as amended a due pass recommendation. The
Thank
next-
you, members. Thank you for all your hard work, too, guys.
Thank you. Next bill on the calendar is House Bill 2268, and Chase will explain the bill.
Madam Chairman, members, House Bill 2268 requires a charter school governing body and a school district governing board to provide each employee a total compensation statement that is broken down by category of benefit or payment. The bill lists the benefits or payment the statement must contain. And with that, I'm available for any questions.
Thank you. Members, any questions for Chase? Don't see any. And the sponsor is not here with us today. Representative Grantham wasn't sure if he would be able to make it or not. Since he's not here, I'm assuming he's not making, unless he's signed in. He said he didn't think he was going to make it. So you're welcome to ask me questions if you have questions about it. I have talked to him about it a little bit. But this is, again, a rerun from last year that was going through without any real opposition, I think. And so, but then died when the Senate signing died due to COVID shutdown. So do we have anyone signed up to speak on it?
We do not.
Doesn't look like it. Members, any questions or discussion? Seeing none, please move the bill.
Madam Chairman, I move that HB 2268 be returned with a due pass recommendation.
Members, the motion before you is that House Bill 2268 be returned with a due pass recommendation. Secretary will please call the roll.
Representative Fernandez.
Aye.
Representative John.
Aye.
Representative Wynn.
Aye.
Representative Pollock.
Aye.
Representative Pratt.
Aye.
Representative Roberts.
Aye.
Representative Salmon.
Aye.
Representative Schweber.
Aye.
Vice Chairman Pingarelli.
Aye.
And Chairman Udall.
Aye. Members, by your vote of 10 ayes, 0 nays, 0 present, and 0 absent, you have given House Bill 2268 a due pass recommendation. Next bill on the calendar is House Bill 2175, and Nathan will explain the bill.
Madam Chairman, members, House Bill 2175 transfers responsibility for creating public and charter school policies regarding verifiable documentation of Arizona residency from the Department of Education to the State Board of Education. And with that, I am available for questions.
Thank you. Members, any questions for Nathan?
Madam Chairman? I
Madam
guess,
Vice Chair.
what is the reasoning for the transfer?
I think the sponsor is going to be here in a second, and he'll
Okay.
speak to that, what the problem is that we're trying to solve here. He should be here any second, right on cue. Representative Dunn, please go ahead and explain your bill. We did have a question about why transfer this from ADE to the state board, and I know that you will be explaining that, so go ahead.
Madam Chairman, members, thank you for hearing the bill. Representative Tim Dunn from Legislative District 13. It's a very simple bill to transfer this over. I'll read a statement that was sent to me today from Gina Thompson, the superintendent of Union High School District. So, school districts across the Arizona register students each year using a set of requirements and guidelines that from an operational, fiscal, and safety standpoint create unnecessary confusion and contradiction. In an attempt to meet the very standards from the state legislature, Department of Education, and local school boards, registering students, one of the most crucial yet basic elements of entering a local education agency, has become a verifiable pitfall. The registration of students requires families to provide proof of residency. According to the Arizona Department of Education, pursuant to ARS 15-823, a school district or charter school may not include non-Arizona resident pupils in their student count and may not obtain state aid for those pupils. The district of residency of a student is determined by the residency of the parent or guardian from whom the student lives. It is a responsibility of school districts and charter schools that receive state aid to ensure student and parental residency information is accurate and verifiable. According to ARS 15-816, a school district or charter school may not bar a student from enrolling because he or she lacks a birth certificate or has records indicating a foreign place of birth. parents, guardians are allowed to present more than 13 forms as established by ADE and according to established residency. Some of these forms of documentation are not a photo identification. Districts want to enroll every child who comes to register. Because multiple agencies are involved in establishing policy and practice, districts are left with a potentially dangerous and costly disconnect in accountability to all those agencies. ADE may audit schools to ensure that only Arizona resident students are reported for state aid. The result of an audit without aligning the system has already culminated in a district's loss of critical funding. Furthering the contradictory directives in the event of an emergency, ADE has created an emergency operations plan, which includes a reunification for families. In Appendix A, that requires a parent photo ID driver's license for the release of the child during an emergency. This information from the parent would be verified through the student information system. The SIS documents are collected during registration. Finally, ARS 15-802 refers to custody documentation as guidelines adopted. The ADE website refers to them as guidelines, whereas the residency documents remain subject to audit. There must be a definitive, clear requirements that school districts can follow to ensure student safety, fiscal responsibility, and eliminate the ambiguity of registration residency process. Shifting these requirements to the State Board of Education and allowing for one organizing body to make those determinations is a step in that direction. So that's something that's brought up to me last year from Union High School District, and so it's in one of the college or high schools in down along the border had to pay back a bunch of money because they were audited. So that's kind of the history that I have.
Thank you. And I know what I understand happened was they were accepting different forms of documentation according to previous standards set by the department, and then they got audited and they said, oh, you can't accept those, so they took back money because those students weren't residents. And then they changed their standard of what could be accepted after the fact. And so what we'd like to do, what this bill does is puts it in the state board where there will be a rulemaking process, a public process to determine what documentation would count and what doesn't, and there would be clear guidelines and expectations.
Yes, Madam Chair, because the biggest thing is you have one way of residency, and then you try to, if you have an emergency, you can't use the same documents, you register them, you don't know how to verify if you can give the kid to the parent because the documents don't match up, and they're getting frustrated with that.
So, members, what questions do you have?
Madam Chair, I'm not
Representative
sure
Pollack.
if it's for Mr. Dunn or if it's for staff. Have we seen this issue in other districts, or are we only aware of this happening in this one school district?
Madam Chair, Representative Pollack, the school, we have not been audited and found at fault for the paying in Yuma Union School Districts. It was in Ajo and in Douglas that they had to pay back. So it's just border communities is the issue. And so it's, it's by no means, there's some students in Yuma that live in Mexico, but their family is here, but they live with their grandparents in Mexico back and forth. So it's not targeting those students. It's a matter of just making sure that the documents that they use are allowed. So when they audit them, that they're legal, and then when they actually give the kids, people that come pick them up, that they use the right documents. So they have, it's just a matter more of the payback. They don't want to have the same problem that Douglas has, and so.
Thank you.
Madam Chair?
Please,
Representative Dunn? So,
she's right here.
yeah, I'm right here.
She's right here in person.
Oh. It sounded like it's coming from over there. I'm like,
So, I just want to clarify. So, currently, does the State Board of Education have forms and ADE has forms, and those are not consistent with one another? Is that where the confusion is coming?
It's the confusion. They want to move it from the Board of Ed, Madam Chair, Representative Schweibert. The problem is it's in statute and it's in rulemaking, and so there's guidelines through the Arizona Department of Education, and so and within their policies they don't have the same the residency programs and the residency and the emergency documents are adopted. So they want to move that over to where to be a public process. So instead of you just kind of change the guidelines and give a 60-day notice. That's what they can do at the Department of Education. They can update their guidelines, and then you don't know what's going on. So,
Okay.
So we want to move it to it's a public process. Here's the rules for this school year, and it can be talked about amongst the board.
Okay, so it's more of a public process when the rules are in, at the SBE instead
Right.
of the ADE?
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Members, other questions? Okay. Do we have anyone signed up to speak on it?
No, we do not.
Okay. Any other further discussion on the bill? Seeing none, please move the bill.
Madam Chairman, I move that HB 2175 be returned with a due pass recommendation.
Members, the motion before you is that House Bill 2175 be returned with a due pass recommendation. Secretary will please call the roll.
Representative Hernandez.
Aye.
Representative Jones.
Aye.
Representative Wynn.
Aye.
Representative Pollock.
Aye.
Representative Pratt.
Aye.
Representative Roberts.
Aye.
Representative Solomon.
Nay.
Representative Schweber.
Aye.
Vice Chairman Pingarelli.
Aye.
And Chairman Udall.
Aye. Members, by your vote of 9 aye, 1 nay, 0 present, and 0 absent, you have given House Bill 2175 a due pass recommendation. The next
Thank you,
bill-
members.
Thank you. Next bill on the calendar is House Bill 2174, and Chase will explain the bill.
Madam Chairman, members, House Bill 2174 establishes the Project Rocket pilot program and the Project Rocket Fund. The bill establishes the program to improve
Closer to the
academic
mic.
outcomes for students and requires schools that receive funding to prioritize resources to increase academic gain and graduation rates for students who struggle academically due to socioeconomic factors. The bill allows C-letter grade schools with 60% or more of students eligible for free or reduced price lunch, and D and F letter grade schools to receive $150 per student in fiscal years 2022, 2023, and 2024. C and D letter grade schools must submit an improvement plan to the State Board of Education and identify a mentor to assist with academic achievement to be eligible for program monies. F letter grade schools must establish a Project Rocket committee that must submit an improvement plan to the State Board of Education. The committee must also partner with an approved independent school improvement expert. The bill establishes multiple reporting requirements for eligible schools and the State Board of Education. And finally, House Bill 2174 appropriates $44,567,968 from the general fund in fiscal years 2022, 2023, and 2024 to the fund, and $1 million and 7 full-time employees from the general fund in these same fiscal years to the State Board of Education. Madam Chairman, there is an amendment I can explain.
Please.
Madam Chairman, members, the 17-line Udall amendment dated January 22nd at 9:11 a.m. inserts a delayed effective date of July 1st, 2022. As a result, the amendment shifts all the dates listed in the bill back by 1 year. And with that, I'm available for any questions.
Thank you. Members, any questions for Chase?
Madam Chairman?
Please, Madam Vice Chair.
Yes, I just want to know, how many schools do we have that have letter grades C, D, and F? And then if you have, do you have enrollment numbers in those schools? I just want to see how many students and how many schools are affected.
Chase, do you have that? Or I mean, I can calculate it because the amount that is appropriated is to serve all of those students.
Okay, that's what I was.
So it's that total amount divided by 150 is that many students.
Okay, and divided
So-
by, I'm sorry, Madam Chair, so
Please.
it'd be divided by 3 years then? So it's, or,
Madam Vice Chair, it's that much each year for 3 years. So that would give you the number of students. The 44 million, whatever, would give you, divided by 150 would give you the number of students.
okay, so the 44 million is every year for 3 years?
Madam Vice Chair, that's correct.
Okay.
Now, any other questions for staff before I explain a little bit about it?
Madam Chair, not
Go
a
ahead.
question, but maybe confirmation for Vice Chair Pingarelli. As far as number of schools that are rated C, and this is based on 2018, 358, and that's 195,214 students. Are we aligned up on that?
Representative Pollock, it allots money for the C schools that are
60% free and reduced.
free and reduced lunch. So that number is all C schools, I think, that you have.
Okay, and then the D schools, 144 with 65,178 students. And then the F schools, 49 schools and 17,033 students.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Madam Chair,
Representative Schwiebert.
I wanted to just ask a question. Somewhere I have a figure of this breaks down to $150 per student. Is that a correct number?
Representative Schwiebert, that's correct. That's how the total is calculated. It's based on $150 per student.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks. Okay, I will explain where this came from. This is kind of a conglomeration of something that the governor's office was working on last year and something I worked on with stakeholders. We have some schools in our state that have historically just really not performed well. Some of them are in very difficult circumstances and have struggled for years. And so one of the stakeholder groups I put together intern before last, was to work on how do we long-term turn around these schools, not in a way that we just bring someone in, it turns around for a little bit, and then they slump back off. And so we looked around the country at what had been done, and we looked at the research on what had been done, and a few things came to light. One was that the best way to turn schools around in a long-term way was to create a community of stakeholders that worked on the plan together so that you had community and stakeholder buy-in. And that was the first thing that really came up, that no matter what program you adopted, if you didn't have community and stakeholder buy-in, it was not successful. And for the large part, there were a lot of different programs that worked so long as you had that community buy-in and really increasing achievement long-term. The second thing that came to light was a program in Utah that is very similar to this. This is based a lot on that program, where they allotted money for the lower performing schools and had them work with somebody from a preferred provider list. And to get on that list, they had to show a long-term history of doing turnaround schools, of being that mentor, and being able to help with that turnaround. And when they did this, within 3 years, all but 3 of their schools moved out of the F letter grade. And after those 3 years, the year after, when they stopped funding, those schools continued to show significant improvement even in the years after they quit funding them. So what it took was that committee to work together, the goal setting together, the vision, and that those, what we're calling Project Rocket committees, became a long-term improvement effort. And that program in Utah is about 6 years old now. I don't know how they're doing this year with the way things have been, but up until last year, they were still continuing to see significant improvement year over year in those schools that had, for decades, really, really struggled. And so that's what the goal is of this program, is to see significant long-term improvements in our schools. So I'm happy to answer any questions.
Madam Chairman?
Please.
So do we have any federal dollars that have been earmarked for something like this? And if we do, I mean, we still have them? Is it ongoing?
Yes, Madam Vice Chair, we do have some federal turnaround school dollars. They are for some of the failing schools. And it hasn't been incredibly successful. They haven't done it in this manner, and it hasn't been incredibly successful. We have seen some schools turn around, but they haven't been as successful as we'd like to see them. And so we're working with ADE to have this be their program for turnaround schools, so that they can combine those federal funds with this money to do that.
Okay. And then also, let's see. So is it going to be evaluated every year? So there's 44 million put into it, plus a million for the staffing. And then every year, is there, I guess, and how are we calculating if we're actually getting back improvement?
Yes, Madam Vice Chair, we do school letter grades annually, so based on their assessments, that's how they monitor it in the Utah program, is based on their assessments. We expect improvement year after year. Now, a lot of times when you do something new, that very first year, you might see a little bit of a dip as things are implemented, and so we want to make sure we give them that 3 years to really see significant improvement. In Utah, when they did it, they saw in some of the schools a slight dip the first year, but by year 2, we're already seeing significant improvement. So we would expect to see in their letter grades, in their assessments, in the data we already collect, we would expect to see significant improvement. I believe there's some reporting requirements in this bill. Let me, because the system's down, I brought the actual printed version. Chase, do you know what I think we had reporting requirements written into it too, though, if I'm remembering right.
Madam Chairman, in the bill, it stipulates that, let me just find it. On or before June 1st of each year, each school that received monies pursuant to this section in the prior fiscal year shall submit a report to the State Board of Education that briefly describes how the improvement plan has improved academic improvement. It authorizes the State Board to request additional reports as needed to assess the school's progress.
Thank you very much. And then just,
Yeah,
Madam
Madam Vice
Chair,
Chair?
one further question.
Yep.
And it's in regards to a future bill that we're talking about today, and I won't mention it because I don't want to get out of order. But if we're potentially going to put a pause on A through F, how does that affect being able to determine a C, D, and an F school?
Madam Vice Chair, that's an excellent question. As we pause the letter grades, they're kind of frozen on what the previous letter grade was. However, notice there's a delayed effective date on this, so we're waiting until fiscal year, so the school year 22-23. So we should have, we might still be going off of old letter grades when we start the program.
I was just, questioning if that's going to be effective or not.
Well,
as effective.
So, Madam Vice Chair, and we did talk about that some. Most of these schools that are in those DNFs have been DNFs for decades.
Okay.
So we figured that it wasn't going to make a great deal of difference whether we used a frozen letter grade or not to start the program.
Thank you.
Thank you. Members, what other questions, comments? Okay, I think we have some speakers for this one.
Yes, we do. We have Megan Del Artino. Yes.
Okay, is Megan not on there? Okay, nope.
Darcy Mentrone.
Darcy Mentone is on there. Darcy, welcome to your first time at Education Committee this year. Make sure you unmute yourself.
Okay. Hello, Representative Udall. Hello, Education Committee. Thank you so much for having me. I should close. So thank you. I'm a little bit frazzled because I just got done testifying on a bill in Senate Education. This is a little strange. But I'm just here to offer the Vail School District's really powerful support for Project Rocket for this bill. Our former superintendent, Calvin Baker, for decades has been saying that educating students in poverty is the most significant educational issue in the state of Arizona. And although the Vail School District doesn't have a super high level of free and reduced lunch students, we're at about 30%. We still see firsthand all of the challenges in educating this group of students. So we see that not only within our own schools, and we know that the schools in Vail that have the higher populations of free and reduced lunch students, we know that we need to direct more resources towards those schools. But we also run a program called Beyond Textbooks that works with districts and charter schools, not only throughout Arizona, but throughout the nation. And we know one of the first things that we do when we sign on a Beyond Textbooks partner is we go in and we look at their demographics, because based on their demographics, we are going to have a much better idea before even speaking with them what kinds of supports they're going to need. Students that come from a home situation of poverty almost always need more supports right from the get-go. They do not come into kindergarten often at the same academic level as students that come from middle-class families, and they also need more ongoing support. So directing the state's resources specifically towards this group of students is something that, although the Vail School District will not directly benefit from much, we are huge supporters of, because we believe that it's good for kids and we believe that it's good for the state of Arizona.
Thank you, Darcy. And I will just say that Beyond Textbooks is definitely one of those groups or mentor programs that I would hope to see on the preferred provider list. They've done incredible work throughout our school on really revolutionizing achievement in districts that have struggled. And so thank you guys for what you do.
Thank you.
Members, do you have any questions for Darcy? I don't see any. Okay. Who else do we have signed up to speak?
We have Neil Giuliano.
Neil Giuliano. Giuliani.
I know I'm checking it up.
Mm-hmm. Neil, welcome to Education Committee. Oh, it says it's still coming up. Still see the dancing dots. Okay, there you go. Welcome. Go ahead.
Was that for me?
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you. I couldn't
Just
tell.
put something in front of your camera, though. So now we can
Okay.
only see half of you.
Hold on.
Much better.
Better?
Yes, thank you.
All right, great. Thank you. Well, thanks for having me today. I'm happy to be here. My name is Neil Giuliano. I'm the president and CEO of Greater Phoenix Leadership. It's a CEO consortium working at the intersection of business, education, philanthropy, and the broader public policy sector. And recently we just unveiled what will be a long-term effort to convene and work with stakeholders on an education game plan for Arizona. We've been talking with our friends in Southern Arizona and Northern Arizona about that, and we're excited to begin to take all the various components of the education plan that have been put in place over literally more than a decade plus, and come up with a comprehensive plan that all the stakeholders can be involved with. And for us, it involves 4 areas: innovation, accountability, access, and funding. And we see what you have before you today with HB 2174 as a great pilot project that's very innovative, that we think is worthy of your consideration. We've spent some time over the last few months looking over significant amounts of data with regard to our failing schools, our D and F schools, and have noticed what others have seen perhaps in the past, but quite strikingly, our students of color throughout Arizona are not performing well enough for into the future needs that we will have as a state. And so this innovative 3-year project as targeted investments for these schools that are not performing very well now is a critical step towards, we believe, addressing a lot of racial inequities and the achievement gaps that we're finding in the student data in Arizona. We think this program will improve academic outcomes for students in some of these lower income areas where D and F schools, public schools exist. We also think it will help students that will need to catch up academically because of socioeconomic factors, poverty, adverse childhood experiences, English language acquisition, and so forth. On an accountability standpoint, since this bill will require that each school rated C, D, and F have to submit a school improvement program and a plan to the State Board of Education, we think that is a good step. We think that are the kind of things that people in the business community do within their own organizations and would like to see within our education ecosystem as well. And the fact that they'd have to then work with independent school improvement experts is a good thing. These are best practices. And so overall, we're very much in favor of advancing this bill, keeping this conversation going, and ensuring that we make this incremental step, even as we will start to work on a long-term, comprehensive plan that is even larger with regard to an education game plan for Arizona. So with that, Madam Chair, thank you very much. Madam Vice Chair and members, I appreciate the opportunity to come virtually and visit with you.
Thank you. Members, any questions for Neil? No? Okay. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Madam Vice Chair, do we have anyone else signed up to speak?
Yes, Paula Feely, and then Betsy Hargrove.
Okay. Okay, Paula, Feely, okay, and then Betsy after that. Okay, great. Paula,
Hi,
welcome.
thank you.
Thank you for being here today.
Thank you, Madam Chair, for allowing me to speak on behalf of HB 2174 and for sponsoring this bill. I'm Paula Feely. I'm a mom of 4 and I live in Chandler, Arizona. I worked in the Chandler schools for many years, most recently at Willis Junior High, home to an incredible staff, a diverse and dynamic student body, and a state designated C rating. I believe Project Rocket would be beneficial to the students of Willis and schools like it. Our kids have come to school having faced such strong headwinds in their young lives, and you can see the effects that it has had on their learning. I worked with 7th grade math students at Willis, and the gaps in the students' learning were apparent from the start. An astonishing number of them come to junior high unable to multiply, divide, or even subtract, all of which they need to be able to do proficiently. Without these skills, it's nearly impossible to teach students the material in 7th grade math class. Last year, I worked closely with a student named Zoe who came in with serious deficits but was eager to learn. She applied her new skills and worked tremendously hard and ended up being Math Student of the Year. A program like Project Rocket would help us to reach more kids like Zoe and put them on a path for success. Without additional help, deficits that students bring with them to junior high practically guarantee that they'll struggle throughout their high school career. And without additional help, graduation gets further and further out of reach. Project Rocket is a good investment in those kids who need it the most. This money is needed even more urgently as these students have fallen disproportionately farther behind during the pandemic. The schools are desperate for ways to keep kids learning, and the funds budgeted by the governor for this bill would help tremendously. I urge you all to support Project Rocket by voting yes on HB 2174. Thank you.
Thank you. Members, any questions for Paula? Paula, thank you for being with us and giving us those real examples of real students. Appreciate it.
All right, thank you so much.
Thank you. And then we have Betsy Hargrove. Betsy, we're ready for you. Go ahead.
Perfect, thank you. Chairwoman Udall, Vice Chairperson Pingarelli, and members of the House Committee, I am really proud to be here today to tell the story of Avondale Elementary School District and our real experiences with Project Rocket. In Avondale, it is called GEARS, Growing Educators Achieving Results with Students, and it's based off of a program that was developed in Fairfax, Virginia. So to give you an idea of Avondale, Avondale is a smaller school district just outside of Phoenix. We have about 6,000 students with students eligible for free and reduced price lunch at approximately 68%. So our highest lowest is 48%. Our highest is 98%. And so our students definitely fit the model of what you're looking for Project Rocket and how it can roll forward. We were approached back in 2015 by a group from Fairfax, Virginia, who had spent time in schools similar to those in Avondale, who had struggling academics, and they, as a team of educators, developed a program based off of UVA's turnaround school model, as well as John Hattie's work with high yield instructional strategies, and basically a compilation of really great successful approaches, and they brought all of those together into what they called Project Momentum. At that point, they worked with the governor's office and some philanthropic partners, and they developed an opportunity for Avondale to be able to demonstrate a proof of concept. So does this work in Avondale in the context of the state of Arizona? They knew it worked in Fairfax, Virginia. They'd had demonstrated years of success, and so much so that actually an entire Fairfax school district is moving forward with Project Momentum throughout their district. That being said, Avondale was selected to be a part of this pilot, this proof of concept. I will share with you, in our baseline year, Avondale was proficient in ELA at about 23%, in math about 25%, and our goal obviously was to impact student achievement and close that achievement gap. So when you think about closing the achievement gap, the first thing that needs to happen is you have to outpace what's happening outside of you and around you in the state. And so our goal was to make sure that what was happening in our classrooms for our children every day allowed our kids to be able to demonstrate a higher level of proficiency and a higher growth and achievement than other school districts throughout the state of Arizona. Since then, Avondale has demonstrated unprecedented success. So when you look at the average growth from our baseline year of 2014-15 and our last year that we had AZ Merit, 2018, Avondale Elementary School District in ELA increased achievement in growth rate by 13%. If you look at the average growth in proficiency across the state, it was 7%. If you look at math, we increased our average proficiency by 18% points. Across the state, that was about 6%. So almost 2 and definitely 3 times the growth of what's happening across the state of Arizona relative to the same test, all of the students in Arizona and the students in Avondale, and we were able to demonstrate that we could close that achievement gap, and that we are definitely on that trajectory to continue to do that. So when you think about what this could possibly mean across the state of Arizona with a demonstrated proof of concept, and it wasn't just Avondale. Avondale was one of the sites that initially started with it, but also Wickenburg has participated in this, and several schools in Deer Valley have also engaged with Project Momentum, or as I said, we call it GEARS, and they have also demonstrated growth and success with it. All of that to be said, I want to talk a little bit about where we are now. We have an even increased challenge of what's going to happen with our children. And so we've already recognized, and I loved hearing the prior speakers and the recognition that yes, it does cost more, and we do need additional resources for students in poverty to be able to have the opportunity that they so deserve. That being said, let's add a pandemic to that. And I just want to share with you that when we sat and had our first conversation about a pandemic last March, and we're meeting with our principals, one of the first comments was, okay, we'll go back and do what we need to do for each one of our sites. And at first glance at that, it's like, okay, yes, go take care of your site, Principal A and Principal B and Principal C. And then it was, wait a minute. The work that we've done with Project Momentum with GEARS has taught us that we are certainly stronger together, that the core of this is about collaboration and collective accountability for every child in every classroom in Avondale. There's no way that anyone's going back and working in their silos. We are working together to find a solution to this problem together. Now, fast forward almost a year later. Avondale Elementary School District is on track to continue to demonstrate growth, or I should say, less of a loss than what is anticipated. All of the studies that are out there relative to summer learning loss, or summer slide as they call it, or research around Hurricane Katrina or even the Spanish flu and the loss of learning that occurred in those sets of circumstances, we anticipate that we're going to have significant loss of learning due to this pandemic. In Avondale, though, we are pacing less than half of the loss of what is being demonstrated or expected across the United States in the education system. Where they're anticipating mid-teens for loss of learning and demonstration of proficiency, Avondale is tracking with our benchmark assessments and our formative assessments somewhere around 6 and 7%. So we anticipate that we are going to lose less, and in fact, in our world, we still have time to continue to close that gap. And we're very, very well poised based off of all of the work that we've done and have built over the past several years using the tenets of the work that is being presented in Project Rocket to be able to make sure that our students not only are able to be successful in a typical set of circumstances, but when faced with some incredibly challenging times with this pandemic. So I just urge this committee and applaud you for bringing this forward because I believe it is the right work. In Avondale, our mission vision is about every child growing as a thinker, problem solver, and a communicator to pursue their future without limits. So when we talk about building that accountability, it's every child, every classroom. This committee is bringing forward the opportunity for every child in every classroom across Arizona. And I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you. Members, any questions for Superintendent Hargrove? You have one? Representative Pollack.
Thank you, Madam Chair and Ms. Hargrove. The numbers you shared with us are just phenomenal. I was wondering, after your pilot period ended and the funding wasn't there to continue, how were you able to keep seeing growth without that additional money coming into your district?
Thank you, Representative Pollack. That is an excellent question. From the very beginning, when we started to engage the work with GEARS, we were very much focused on how can we best position ourselves to not have that cliff when the funding goes away. And so we have been able to essentially earmark funds to have continued opportunity for our staff to participate in the professional development pieces, the leadership pieces. I can't tell you enough hearing Chairwoman Udall talking about the community and stakeholder buy-in. The magic of this opportunity is that we build our teachers to be leaders. They are the facilitators. They are sharing we call them really good practices, because the idea of a best practice is that you're done. So we have really good practices we want to replicate, and the accountability to one another to share those. So compressing and elevating the idea of if someone is demonstrating great success in a classroom, it's their responsibility to share it. So when we started this program, we were able to earmark additional funding to make sure that we're paying it forward. One of the ways we've been able to do it through results-based funding. And so you sit here and say, when we started this, we had 0 A schools. In fact, we really had a smattering of B's and C's, a D and an F. And right now we have more than half of our schools A's and B's. And so due to that, we were able to action results-based funding. So we earmarked some of those funds from it, and classroom site fund, et cetera. So those are all pieces we've been able to action. I will share with you that with our work with the philanthropic partners and with the governor's office, we have continued to have funding from that source. However, it doesn't change the fact that we've paid it forward in the anticipation of this is something that we want to fund and is that important to the work that we do in Avondale.
Thank you. Members, any other questions? Seeing none. Thank you so much for being with us and for what you've done for the children of your district.
Thank you.
Two more. Get back. Megan Del Artino.
I don't think Megan's
She's not,
speaking.
okay.
On it, no.
Scott
Nope.
Murdo.
He's not here either.
Okay.
Is that it? All right. Thank you. Members, any further discussion or questions? Seeing none, will you please move the bill, Madam Vice Chair?
Madam Chairman, I move that HB 2174 be returned with a due pass recommendation.
And the Udall amendment?
Madam Chairman, I move that the 17-line Udall amendment dated January 22nd at 9:11 a.m. be adopted.
Thank you, members. The motion before you is the adoption of the Udall amendment. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. It appears the ayes have it, do have it, so ordered. Madam Vice Chair, please move the bill as amended.
Madam Chairman, I move that HB 2174 as amended be returned with a due pass recommendation.
Members, the motion before you is that House Bill 2174 as amended be returned with a due pass recommendation. The Secretary will please call the roll.
Representative Hernandez.
Madam Chair, may I explain my vote?
Please.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman, for bringing this bill up. I served on a school board for many years in Southern Arizona, and I think I've mentioned it more in this committee than I ever have in my entire life. But it serves for me as an important reminder of the reason why the work that we do at the state legislature to fund our schools is so critical. During my time in Sunnyside, we saw that there were a lot of schools that needed to be turned around, and we joined with the University of Virginia's turnaround model and implementation of that program, and we saw lots of great results. The problem was continued funding running out after some of the federal grants for turnaround schools went away. So while this isn't perfect and there is no silver bullet to fixing all of education issues, I think it's a step in the right direction so that other schools, particularly those in the C, D, and F categories, have some additional resources to really make sure that we can see those gains for the students, particularly in what we anticipate to be a really difficult time after COVID. So it's not perfect. It doesn't address all of the education concerns that we have. We're still not funding the stability grants for enrollment that we need to be funding. And there are other things that need to be funded in K-12. But I think the amount of money that we would be pumping in to make sure that schools have resources to really address the most critical needs for our most vulnerable students, I think is important. And with that, I vote aye.
Representative John.
Aye.
Representative Quinn.
Aye.
Representative Pollock.
Madam Chair, may I explain my vote?
Please.
Thank you. Oh, I agree with so many of the comments that my colleague, Representative Hernandez, brought forth. We have such a need in Arizona right now for our schools, specifically with the stabilization grants that have been underfunded by more than $300 million. I know the schools are really, really suffering right now. But with that said, we also know that it costs so much more to educate our children who are living in poverty. I feel like we have to go forth to support the teachers, to support the students in these schools so we can give them what they need to be successful, to fill in the gaps that they have so that we can get them on level and graduating high school and hopefully moving on to bigger and better things after high school. So with that, I do vote yes.
Representative Pratt.
Aye.
Representative Roberts.
Aye.
Representative Solomon.
Madam Chair, if I may.
Please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, it's been a fact for over 20 years that students of color in Arizona have been falling behind the curve, and it's something that's needed much investment from the state, but unfortunately we haven't received adequate investment, hence the initiative that went to the ballot this past year. I don't oppose the idea of helping schools in need. I just, my concern with this is still so small and there is no guaranteed long-term sustainable investment. Whereas I think the conversation and the reforms that we should be working on is not kind of this piecemeal, let's help a school here, let's help a school there. But actually getting at the way that we fund our schools, starting the process of doing an equity weight or a poverty weight or something that schools can look forward to for the long term that can really address a lot of the challenges that our students are facing, even prior to this pandemic. But then, you adding the complications and the weight of the pandemic on our students' shoulders, and it's a lot for our young people nowadays. So I appreciate that we're having a conversation about these schools in need, but I just don't think this is, personally, I don't think that this is the best solution, nor do I think long-term this is what our schools need. So unfortunately, I'm voting no on this bill.
Representative Schweber.
Madam Chair, may I explain my vote?
Please.
So, first of all, I want to acknowledge the hundreds of people who have emailed me from all over Arizona urging me to vote no on this bill because they see it as a Band-Aid for a situation that really needs surgery. You know, and as somebody, and as an educator who spent 27 years in schools, I agree with them, as well as the AEA and Expect More Arizona and the Center for Arizona Progress and so many other groups that we do need, and addressing again what Rep. Salmon just said, that we need a permanent, robust investment in all our public schools for all our children. I also don't like that Project Rocket provides only $150 per student to help improve the situation for students, while giving $300 or $400 per student to A-rated schools. I believe it should be just the opposite, and I believe that we should be addressing the $380 million shortfall that schools found this last year that they so desperately need. But given all that, because I do know that we all do better when every child gets the quality education they deserve, and I cannot vote no on a bill when I think of all the young children like the ones our speakers talked about. It seems clear that this funding will help make a lifelong difference for so many of our children. We can't wait for our state to get all of our funding and get our act together. We need to invest now in our most vulnerable kids. It's good for them and it's good for us. So with that, I vote aye.
Vice Chairman Pingarelli.
Aye.
Chairman Udall.
I would just like to thank you guys for your support for this bill. I have the goal of having us not have any F schools within 3 to 5 years. I want us to continue to work at any way that we can to turn around these schools for these students and to help them be successful. And so with that, I vote aye. Members, by your vote of 9 aye, 1 nay, 0 present, and 0 absent, you have given House Bill 2174 as amended a due pass recommendation. The next bill on our calendar is House Bill 2210, and Chase will explain the bill.
Madam Chairman, members, House Bill 2210 allows the school district governing board to provide food and beverages at school district events, including official school functions and trainings, as well as through a cafe that is open to the public. And with that, I'm available for any questions.
Sorry. Thank you. Members, any questions for Chase? Seeing none, the sponsor is Representative Hernandez. The other Representative Hernandez.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. So this came to me because what was happening is statute doesn't explicitly allow school districts to be able to provide food for all-day teacher trainings, board meetings. So this is a practice that's already being done by many school districts, but we wanted to make sure that they're on the right side of the law. I'll need to work with the chairwoman to have an amendment for the floor that removes the section about cafes so that we don't end up causing any damage to existing programs, since we already addressed that in a separate bill about CTE programs and how that funding and where it goes. So this is really just to make it so that school districts don't run afoul of the Auditor General when there are reports coming out saying that they're technically not following state statute when they're providing food during trainings, meetings, or other functions. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Members, any questions for Representative Hernandez? Seeing none. Do we have anyone to speak on this?
No, we do not.
Okay, then please move the bill.
Madam Chairman, I move that House Bill 2210 be returned with a due pass recommendation.
Members, the motion before you is that House Bill 2210 be returned with a due pass recommendation. Secretary will please call the roll.
Representative Hernandez.
Aye.
Representative John.
Aye.
Representative Lynn.
Aye.
Representative Pollock.
Aye.
Representative Kraft.
Aye. Aye.
Representative Roberts.
Aye.
You need to be on screen, please. Representative Roberts, we need to be able to see you.
Yeah, I'm trying to get it to
Oh,
turn
okay.
on, but it's not cooperating. There we
you
go.
are.
Aye.
Thank you.
Representative Salmon.
Aye.
Representative Schweber.
Aye.
Vice Chairman Pingarelli.
Aye.
And Chairman Udall.
Aye. Members, by your vote of 10 ayes, 0 nays, 0 present, and 0 absent, you have given House Bill 2210 a due pass recommendation. Next bill is House Bill 2402.
Madam Chairman, members, House Bill 2402 prohibits the Arizona Department of Education from assigning letter grades for the 2020, 2021, and 2021 and 2022 school years. The bill requires ADE to continue to collect and publish letter grade data for these schools. The bill directs ADE to develop criteria to identify schools that demonstrate a below average level of performance in years the letter grades are not assigned. House Bill 2402 allows the school district governing board to adopt alternative policies for teacher performance-based funding and policies regarding dismissal or non-renewal procedures for teachers who continue to be designated as ineffective during the 2020, 2021, and 2021-2022 school years. Finally, House Bill 2402 authorizes the State Board of Education to adjust the dates by which local education agencies are required to receive assessment scores and data if the State Board alters the statewide assessment testing window. And with that, I'm available for any questions.
Thank you. Members, any questions for Chase? Seeing none. This is obviously a response to the pandemic. I just want to make it clear that we do still plan on offering the spring assessment and collecting that data as well as the other data that usually becomes part of letter grades. But because so much of it is not valid and reliable, everyone has different attendance procedures this year. Parts of your CCRI, which is the College and Career Readiness Index, aren't being offered or are not as consistent. Just with all of the different things that are going on, and then you have students who have not been in person in school for a year, many of them without internet access. It's just going to be difficult to grade a school based on the normal procedure. And so this waives it for 2 years. We are still in discussions about the second year. This year, obviously, it's because of the pandemic. Next year, we will be changing to a new statewide assessment. And so in the past, when we've done that, we've waived letter grades for a year. But right now, there's still some discussions going around alternate ways of doing growth and as you do a transition like that. And so you may see an amendment later to limit this just to this year as we continue to have those discussions about next year. Just so you're aware, that hasn't been decided at this point. We do have a catcher here with the board. Oh, we have somebody out there. Okay, we have somebody virtually testifying, he says.
We do. Let's see. We have Rebecca Beebe.
Oh, okay. We have Rebecca Beebe with the Arizona School Superintendents Association. And she's going to testify.
Madam Chair, members.
Go ahead, Rebecca.
Madam Chair, members of the committee, for the record, Rebecca Beebe here on behalf of the Arizona School Administrators in support of House Bill 2402. We want to thank Representative Udall for taking up the issue, taking the lead on this. And I think that Kutcher and I, who will speak after me, were able to meet with everyone on the committee to walk through why we're bringing this bill forward. This bill pauses school letter grades for 2 years for 2 different reasons, some of which Representative Udall got into. Sorry, the feed is behind a little bit, so I didn't hear, I see you're still talking on my feed, so I didn't hear the last of your explanation, Representative Udall, so I apologize if I get repetitive. But we also agree with Representative Udall that school letter grades for this year, because of things going on with the pandemic, will not be a reliable or meaningful evaluation of a school's performance. This pretty unprecedented, hopefully once in a lifetime pandemic has, had some impacts on student learning. And we're also advocating for a pause in this year's letter grade because the statewide assessment was not given last spring, making it difficult to calculate growth on the assessments as we have no data for the most recent school year in which the kiddos would have taken the test. So nothing to compare this spring scores to. And that's because the DeVos administration did grant a statewide waiver from the assessment to every state because of COVID. In this bill, we're also advocating for a pause in the letter grades for the next school year because the state is transitioning to a new assessment next school year. So Pearson assessment for the 3-8 kiddos and the SAT and ACT for high school. So comparing assessment scores for growth purposes, and growth on assessments is a big part of the A through F formula. That will be difficult because we're taking ASEM 2 this spring and then a different test next year. So we need the time to crosswalk the two assessments. And in 2015, Senator Kelly Ward did run a bill to pause the letter grades for 2 years then due to a change in the assessment. That was when the state went from Ames to AZ Merit. So there's precedence for this. And as well as from experience, the school administrators consider that to be the best option in this situation. But definitely very supportive of the pause for this year due to the effects of COVID, both on student learning this year and from not taking the statewide assessment last year. And with that, I'm available for any questions and happy to expand upon any of those points I made.
Thank you. Members, any questions for Rebecca? I don't see any. Okay. Thank you, Rebecca. And then, who do we have next?
Mark Jordanstead?
Oh, Mark Jordansted's not on there.
I'm sorry, Callie Kozlak?
Is Callie on there? Okay, let's have Callie speak. Callie Kozlak with ADE. Callie, we're ready for you.
Hi there. I'm sorry.
I know there's a delay.
Okay. I missed the question with the feed. I'm sorry. Could you repeat?
What the question with?
Oh, am I just on?
Yeah, there wasn't a question.
Okay, I'm sorry.
I know
this is
the
my
feed
first
is
time at
delayed.
this rodeo.
It's kind of messing everybody up today.
Madam Chair, members of the board, I'm just here to answer any questions from ADE. Okay. If there's any questions on assessment or accountability that I can answer today, but we are supportive of this bill.
Okay, thank you, members. Any questions for Callie with ADE? I don't see any. Okay, thank you. Who else? I know we have Catcher here to speak. Why don't we go ahead and have Catcher Baden? Is there anyone else after him?
That's it.
Okay. Welcome.
Welcome. Thank you, Madam Chair and members. For the record, Catcher Baden with the State Board of Education here in person today. And I'm sorry you don't get to see my background. I had something special planned for you. Again, for the record, Catcher Baden with the State Board of Education in support of House Bill 2402. Just for some reference, our board is charged with adopting the A to F system and the assessment system. And based on the experience with those systems and the additional months of study that the board did last year, our board adopted a resolution in December that largely aligns with the bill that's in front of you today, and that's why we're here in support. Chase and Rebecca both did a good job explaining what the bill actually does, so I don't want to go into detail in repeating what they said, but I did want to expand on a couple points, and I think it was alluded to, which is around the fact that we've done this before, that we've put A to F on a pause before. And I want to emphasize that not only is this something that we've done before, but it's really just best practice. There's a reason that we've done it before. It's not just we do it all the time, so we should keep doing it. There's a good reason for it. And so I'll give you some examples. Tennessee, Wyoming, Colorado, Texas, Mississippi, those are just a few states that have already placed their 8F systems or similar systems on a pause due to COVID. So this is just something that they have done and that other states are considering to do, and I expect more states will continue to do that, especially as ours, who we need a legislative session, we need a bill to get some of that stuff done. Some of those states, state departments of education had latitude to already do that. A pause is something that Arizona has also already done before, most recently in 2015, and I think Rebecca mentioned that. At that time, we put a pause, the legislature passed a bill to put a 2-year pause on A to F because we were transitioning assessment systems. At that time, it was AIMS to AZ Merit. Now we are transitioning from AZM2, which is essentially AZ Merit, to our new assessment systems next year. And that's both in elementary school and high school, and not just in ELA and math, but we're also transitioning our science assessment next year. So next year is a big transitional year for our assessment system. Now the reason that we put those pauses on and that other states put the pause on too is that sometimes you need a pause to establish baseline level data to make sure you have a valid and reliable system, and also to calculate growth, year-over-year academic growth, especially on the statewide system. Elementary schools, under our current A to F accountability system, elementary schools' outcome, 50% of that outcome is based on student academic growth on the statewide assessment. And actually, there's other indicators and other points schools get for other growth measures also on the statewide assessment. ELs, for example, they take a statewide assessment. And as Rebecca mentioned, last year, that was wiped off the table. And next year, it's really hard to calculate growth across 2 different assessments. So that's why it's common practice. And it's really to preserve the integrity of that system, to ensure its long-term viability. Sometimes it's warranted to put a pause on. Now, during the pause, the bill requires academic achievement data to be published publicly. We'll work with the department on making sure that that's readable, understandable, usable for the public, for policymakers, for schools. It requires our board to identify with the Department of Education a below average criteria for schools. And then, of course, during all this, federal accountability is still going to be happening. There's a federal accountability system that is separate from A to F. It measures similar things. It's basically a simplified version of A to F. That system is not touched by this bill. That system will still be around. So all that's to say that schools will still be held accountable during this hiatus, and we're going to be working and have already drafted some internal timelines so that we take advantage and make good use of this pause. So that way when letter grades are restarted in 2 years, we have a system that's ready to go and hopefully even improved from what we currently have. So with that, in support today, and I'm happy to answer any questions as I breathe heavily through my mask.
Thank you. Members, any questions for Catcher?
Madam Chairman?
Madam Vice Chair, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to, I know parents are used to seeing the A through F. You had just mentioned it, that the data that is presented to parents that are looking, that it be clear and concise.
Yes, Madam Chair and Representative Pingarelli, that is absolutely a goal of the board, and it's part of one of, the board has a set of values, of ADAF values when it adopts the system. And one of those values is for understandability and readability, and that will hold even if we don't issue a summative letter grade. So we'll work with the department. The Department of Ed has a website right now, School Report Cards website, that has a lot of good data, and we'll make sure we work with them to make sure that that data is still readable and understandable and clear and concise for parents to understand. Sometimes, currently actually, our letter grades over the past few years had been issued we put it in a big Excel spreadsheet. And it wasn't until a year or two ago that the Department of Education updated their website and was able to put it at the top. So we're actually hoping during the hiatus that we might be able to continue to make improvements with how that data is presented in a more user-friendly fashion.
Thank you. Thank you. Members, any other questions for Catcher? Okay, thanks, Catcher. And any other speakers? Just Catcher the last one, I think.
No, we do not.
Okay, any more questions or discussion on the bill? Seeing none, please move the bill.
Sorry, I'm shuffling through my papers. Madam Chairman, I move that House Bill 2402 be returned with a due pass recommendation.
Members, the motion before you is that House Bill 2402 be returned with a due pass recommendation. Secretary will please call the roll.
Representative Fernandez.
Aye.
Representative John.
Aye.
Representative Wynn.
Aye.
Representative Pollock.
Madam Chair, may I explain my vote?
Please.
Thank you. I've heard from many, many teachers and school board members in my area, and they are very grateful for this opportunity to have the grades paused for 2 years. So with that, I vote yes.
Representative Pratt.
Aye.
Representative Roberts.
Aye.
Representative Solomon.
Aye.
Representative Schweber.
Madam Chair, may I explain my vote?
Please.
Just very briefly, again, this is another of the bills like Representative Pollock, where I've heard from many, many constituents who are supporting this bill. So with that, I'm very proud to vote aye.
Vice Chairman Pingarelli.
Aye.
Chairman Udall.
Aye. Members, by your vote of 10 ayes, 0 nays, 0 present, and 0 absent, you have given House Bill 2402 a due pass recommendation. And I think we're going record speed here. The last bill on our calendar is House Bill 2403, and Chase will tell us about it.
Madam Chairman, members, House Bill 2403 is an emergency measure that exempts a charter school governing body and a school district governing board from conducting teacher performance evaluations in the 2020-2021 school year. The bill also prohibits a school from using the absence of an evaluation in the 2020-2021 school year to enforce dismissal or non-renewal procedures for a teacher who is designated as ineffective for the 2019-2020 school year. Finally, the bill states that a regular evaluation for effectiveness in the 2020 and 2021 school year is not required for a teacher to be eligible to receive performance pay from the Classroom Site Fund. And with that, I'm available for any questions.
Thank you. Members, any questions for Chase?
Madam Chairman?
Madam Vice Chair.
Yes, on this one, let's see. So this bill on the summary sheet, number 3, so it prohibits school districts from using the absence of the evaluation to enforce a dismissal or a non-renewal for the following school year. So essentially, the school districts would not be able to, if we pass this, would not be able to let go any teachers or to not renew them.
Chase, do you want to take that one, or should I?
Madam Chairman, I can defer to you.
Okay, so no, they just can't decide to fire them because they didn't have an evaluation that year. They can't use that as the reason for not, for firing them. They can still fire them for cause, or, if they had a bad evaluation the previous year and they have not improved their performance, and you can't say, well, we didn't, because we didn't evaluate this year, that's why we're firing.
Okay, yeah, I don't have an HR background, so I just making sure that a school district still has the ability to, not renew a contract if the certified staff member is in the lowest category.
And, okay, thank you, Madam Vice Chair. Yeah, and it says the absence of the evaluation may not be used to enforce the dismissal. You can still dismiss them, and this doesn't prevent them from evaluating. I'm hoping that any school district that has teachers that are in those lowest categories that need the most support or correction still continues to work with those teachers and perhaps go ahead and evaluate them. That'll be up to the districts and charters to decide. But they just can't say, you didn't score well 2 years ago on your performance, and then we didn't do one this year, so you're fired.
Okay. And then I have another question.
Vice Chair, go
Thank you. So the performance pay is made up of, a big part of it is made up of the teacher evaluation. So, and I don't have the percentages in front of me. I'm not sure if it's 50% or, so then without a teacher evaluation, then all school districts would have to give that portion. Do you see where I'm getting at? There's no accountability.
Chase, do you have there what else goes into the performance? I think it's based on the school's goals.
Madam Chairman, I don't have that information
Okay.
in front of me, but if you're referencing the performance evaluation for the classroom site fund, I'm happy to look into that and see what statute says, and I can get that information back to you.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I know that I know in our school we set goals as a school and as a district on what goes into the performance pay.
Mhm.
And I think that some schools probably said, you know, get this high on your evaluation. I don't think that's required to be in the. I don't know without looking at that. So.
I'm going by our school district, PUSD. If it's effective or highly effective, I think it's 100% of that percentage for the
I have
evaluation.
somebody that can answer that question. Can you let Rebecca Beebe in? Thank you. Thank you, Rebecca. Because I don't remember the details. It's a good question. Oh, Rebecca Beebe, please get back in the waiting room. Who is that? Lee Jensen. Okay. I don't know if Lee has the answer to that question or not. Let's see if we can get. Let's go ahead and listen to Lee and then come back to that question when Rebecca's in there.
Thank you.
Just to save time. Oh, except for that Rebecca's there now. No, that's Lee.
There she is.
Let's go ahead and listen to Lee, and then we'll come back to Rebecca.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Oh,
I'm
fine,
Madam
just
Chair.
kidding.
I'm
We're
here.
gonna go with Rebecca. Thank you.
In the classroom, Madam Chair, Representative Pingarelli, the performance-based compensation is, sorry, my feed's going. It is voted on by the teachers. A committee puts that together and it's voted on by teachers and then approved by the governing board. And the teacher evaluation has to account for 33% of that. And then I think, Lee, if you wanted to.
So,
Sorry,
Rebecca, let me just clarify then, if that 33% is taken away, the other 66% would just be the entire amount then?
Madam Chair, yes, that's my understanding with the bill is that districts, Lee, is that right? That districts can adopt alternative performance procedures and that's what gets them around that evaluation needed?
Yes, so Madam Chair, under current statute, between 20 and 33% of the evaluation outcome has to be quantitative data based on academic progress. So that could be, oh, am I gone?
Yes, you're doing good.
So that could,
Thanks.
or that could be the assessment scores, or it could be any other form of quantitative academic data available in the classroom setting.
Lee, when you're talking about the 20 to 33%, that's the percent of the teacher evaluation that has to be based on student data, correct? You're not talking
Correct.
about the percent of teacher evaluation holds in performance pay. So the question was, in performance pay, does the teacher evaluation have to weigh into whether or not a teacher gets performance pay? And what do we do when that's pulled out?
Madam Chair, yes. I don't know off the top of my head what percentage. Rebecca, I know it's 40% of classroom site fund money, but.
Okay, thank you. Rebecca, that was the 33% you said earlier,
Yes,
correct?
Madam
Okay.
Chair, 33% of that performance pay in the classroom site fund is based on the teacher evaluation. But in this bill, it specifies that an evaluation for effectiveness is not required for the teacher to be eligible for that. So the bill does address that concern. So I assume the school, would adopt a new performance plan, which was what you were getting at, Representative Udall, when you were mentioning that your school sets it up and votes on it and adopts it. So the bill addresses that 33% requirement to get around the issue Ms. Pingarelli brought up.
Madam Vice Chair, does that answer your question?
I
then?
think so, yes, thank you.
Okay, thank you guys. All right, who do we have? Oh, other questions? Okay. Who else do we have signed up for to speak? Or those?
That was it?
Okay, Lee, did you have something else you wanted to say other than just answering our questions?
Sure, yeah, I kind of popped on in the middle of something. Madam Chair, members, for the record, Lee Jensen with the Arizona School Boards Association, here in support of House Bill 2403. This bill is straight from our political agenda for the year, which is adopted by our members back in October and requests flexibility in teacher evaluation requirements for the school year. Chase and Rebecca did a great job of explaining the mechanics, but from an administrative perspective, doing observations and evaluations can be quite time consuming, and we think most administrators are pretty focused on keeping their students and staff safe right now. And also from the teacher perspective, I know we talked to Senator Boyer, who told us he's in his 7th year of teaching, and he said he feels like a first-year teacher all over again. So it's not that we don't think teachers are performing effectively this year. I think most teachers are probably working harder than they ever have to provide quality instruction and lesson plans this year. It's just that evaluating a teacher based on his or her performance with these new and constantly changing delivery models on top of everything else going on this year, it just might not be a task that a district wants to take on. That being said, the language is permissive, so if a district is already in the process of completing evaluations and doing those observations, that's certainly not a wasted effort if they want to continue. And like you said, Representative Udall, if there's a teacher who didn't perform as well last year or is a newer teacher that administration just thinks needs a little more observation, that's absolutely fine as well. I wanted to thank you for agreeing to sponsor the legislation and happy to answer any other questions.
Thank you. Members, any questions for Lee? Okay. Thank you. Any other speakers?
No other speakers?
No other
Madam
speakers,
Chairman,
so-
I just had a comment though.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I feel that, I've seen in other areas where people still are evaluated. I've been evaluated in my position. I think with the COVID issues this year, that it's extremely important that we do continue evaluating teachers. So that's just my position.
Thank you. Members, any other discussion, questions, comments?
Maybe just a comment.
Okay, Representative Pollock.
Madam Chair and members, some of the school board members in my area were very pleased to see that this is permissive language, so they appreciated that bit of it. And then I also heard that a lot of the districts are already in the process of doing evaluations, so this probably won't change what's already happening. But thank you for bringing it forth anyway. I know the teachers appreciate it.
Thank you. Any further discussion, questions on the bill? Okay, seeing none, please move the bill.
Madam Chairman, I move that House Bill 2403 be returned with a due pass recommendation.
Members, the motion before you is that House Bill 2403 receive a due pass recommendation. Secretary will please call the roll.
Representative Hernandez.
Aye.
Representative John.
Aye.
Representative Wynn.
Aye.
Representative Pollock.
Aye.
Representative Pratt.
Aye.
Representative Roberts.
Aye.
Representative Salmon.
Aye.
Representative Schweber.
Aye.
Vice Chairman Pingarelli.
Nay.
And Chairman Udall.
Aye. Members, by your vote of 9 aye, 1 nay, 0 present, and 0 absent, you have given House Bill 2403 a due pass recommendation. And congratulations on getting through 10 bills in 2 hours. Seeing no further business before us, the Committee on Education is adjourned.